Okay, so let's continue our little experiment here. Right now we have only one camera, okay, it's pointing to this cube here, the player can move around, but what if we want to have multiple cameras so we can cycle between them, okay? We're going to need to use our game controller to help us doing this logic, okay? So first of all, let's move this main camera inside the game controller in the hierarchy, okay? We can even move this game controller up. So the main camera is now inside that controller. And we want to have more cameras in here, okay? So here we just have one. If we want another one, we can just go here and right-click in this main camera and select duplicate. So we now have another camera. You can see main camera 1. And then we can move this camera to another position, okay? So we can change it to -6 on X, 0 on Z, and we can change its rotation in the vertical axis to 90. So it's facing our player in another side, okay? And you can notice in the camera preview that we now focus on the first camera. But the logic that we want to do is we are going to disable all the cameras but one, which is going to be the active one. So for instance, if we want the first camera to be available, we're going to disable the second, okay, and the first camera is going to be focused. That's pretty much the game that we're going to do here, okay? And if you look at the camera preview and you swap the cameras that are focused in the hierarchy, you can even see all of these previews. So we can add a third camera here, okay, and maybe make this a more vertical view. So maybe we change X to 0, on Y we can use 0 as well, and the rotation on X can be 90. Okay, so let's make this to be in the vertical position 10, okay? So we have this camera, this one, okay, this, and this. And maybe we want to add a third one that is going to be a bit closer to the player, but it's going to follow it. So let's, let me see, let's duplicate this one and move it here and then here. Okay, let's change its rotation to 45, okay, maybe 50. Okay, and what I'm doing here is basically experiment. You can put your cameras in whatever positions you want, okay, just this is basically just for testing, okay? You can find the exact values that you want here. You don't need to be exactly what I'm putting here. I'm just trying some random values and random positions to make something like this, okay? So it's going to look cool. Now we need to move back to the game controller. Okay, let's remove this hello world string. I think we said hello to world a few times. And now we need to have a reference to all of our cameras. Okay, we have 4 right here. There are several ways to do this, but let's work on a way that is more transparent. We're going to type in the beginning of the class public game object. We're going to open and close these brackets, and we're going to type cameras. Okay, or let's use game cameras just so we don't have a conflict of names here. And why the brackets? The brackets are a way for defining that the thing that we're going to store in the game cameras variable is going to be an array of game object. So there are going to be multiple game objects that are going to be stored in this variable. And in the editor, you see that game cameras is a bit different than the other ones. Okay, so if you look at the player, speed, rotating speed, and jumping force, they all have a text field, so you can put the number that you want here. But if you look at the game controller, you see game cameras it contains kind of a hierarchy inside it. So you click on this arrow to open it, and we can change the number in size to 4. So we have now 4 slots to position our cameras. So what we're going to do is simply drag and drop all of them and position them in these slots. Okay, so slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, and finally slot 4. Okay, so all of them are located here. Okay, so you have all the 4 cameras working just fine. However, if we play the game, all of the 4 cameras are going to be enabled. Okay, you can even see that sometimes you receive a warning, a kind of a log message in the console that there are 4 audio listeners in the scene. Okay, because all of the 4 cameras, they can listen for audio, which is not a desired behavior. Okay, but anyway, we have to work on our logic to select only one camera. So to do this, we need the help of one variable. We're going to type here private int game camera index, and we start that as 0. Okay, so why index? The index that we're going to use here, this number, is kind of going to point to the camera that we want to use. Okay, so game cameras contain 4 cameras, and all of these cameras, they can be accessed in the indexes 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we want to cycle among this. We are on 0. If we press the mouse button, we go to 1. If we press it again, we go to 2, and then it's going to keep moving like that. And we can move them both ways. Okay, we can use the left or the right mouse buttons. So now we want to make a method here. Okay, we want to make a method called void focus on camera. Okay, and this is going to receive an int index. Okay, then we open and close curly braces. So what did we do here? Focus on camera is going to receive an index that is going to vary from 1 to 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to disable all the cameras except the one described in this index. And to do this, this is what we have to type: for int I equals to 0, semicolon, I lesser than game cameras dot length, semicolon, I plus plus. Then we can close parentheses and then open and close curly braces. So we're making a very simple loop here. And this I is going to vary from 0 to 3, okay, because this is what we get when we use I lesser than game cameras dot length, which is 4. Okay, so this is going to loop in 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so what we want to do here is type game cameras, and we type this, we open brackets and we pass I, close brackets, and all of this dot set active. And we need to put a condition here that is going to say if this camera is going to be active or not. It's only going to be active if I equals to index. Okay, if it isn't, if it's different, that means that is not the camera that we want to use, and it's going to be disabled. So in the start method, we can type focus on camera, and let's pass game camera index as a parameter, okay, which is the variable that we have here. If we save this and go to Unity and wait for this compilation to complete, okay, let's also clear our console and select collapse. If we press play, notice it's a bit difficult to see, but if you look at the game controller, main camera text is black, but the other ones are grayed out because we have only one available camera, and it is the one that we had available since the beginning of this lesson. Okay, it's the original camera. And now we want to cycle in these other cameras. So how do we do this? We want to make a new method here. So we're going to use void change camera. Okay, and we want to pass here a int direction. Okay, so why direction? This direction variable here is going to be either 1 or -1, because this is going to be the delta for the index. We're going to increase or decrease the game camera index by a certain value. Okay, so what we want to do is this. We're going to type game camera index plus equals direction. But now we need to make a few verifications here. We need to check if game camera index is greater or equal than game cameras.length. Why this? Okay, so remember, game cameras.length is going to return 4 because we have 4 cameras, but the available indexes start from 0, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3. So if game camera index reaches 4 or greater, it means that it needs to go back to 0, so we're going to do a cycle. So we type game camera index equals to 0. However, we need to check for something else. If direction is a negative value, if you are moving back, we need to check if game camera index is lesser than 0, because that's an invalid number for an index. It can't be negative. So we need to check if game camera index is lesser or equal than 0. Then what we have to do is set game camera index to be game cameras.length -1. Okay, because this is 4 a -1 is going to be 3, which is a valid position. So this is what we do to change the camera. And finally, after this, we're going to type focus on camera, game camera index. Okay, so that's basically it. And now we need to actually call the change camera method. And to do this, we're going to listen from some mouse inputs. You could listen for other keys if you want, but let's try another input here, another input way. We're going to type if input.get mouse button, and you notice that you have get mouse button and you have get mouse button down. it works the exact same way when you're pressing buttons. Okay, down is going to return true in the exact frame where the mouse button is being held down, and false on the other ways until we release the mouse and then press it again. So here we're going to use get mouse button down 0. Okay, so this is the left mouse button. Now we close the parentheses, we open and close curly braces, and here we're going to type change camera, and we're going to pass 1 as a parameter. So we're going to cycle the cameras to the right. If we save this and go to Unity and wait till this compilation is complete, we're now going to press the play button. So we have our cube here, it's moving how it was moving before. If we press the mouse button, then we change for another camera, so we have another vision of what's happening here. If we press it again, we move to the top camera, so we can see the cube like this. And if we press it one more time, we have this other camera here, okay, that is in this position. And if we press one last time, notice that it's not cycling just yet, okay? I'm in the last one, I press the mouse button, but it's still not moving, so we have to check what's wrong with this. So, let's see, game camera index is 3 here, okay? Oh, the reason is, we have here, if game camera index is lesser or equal than 0, we just have to check if it's lesser than 0, if it's negative, okay, not equal, because what was happening here is, we were on the last camera, we set game camera index to be 0, and then we entered this condition because it was lesser or equal than 0. Then we moved the game camera index to be the last index, okay, right away. So it is interesting that this happened, so you can see how sometimes a very small detail can change how it works. So now if we press 3 times, then another one, then we move back to the other cameras. Okay, so we can cycle through all of our 4 cameras. But what if we press the right mouse button? Okay, we can type here if input.get mouse button down, and then we pass 1 as a parameter. Let's type change camera and pass -1 as a parameter. Okay, we can save this, go to Unity, wait for the compilation to happen, then we press the play button, okay, then we can cycle normally, but if we press the right one, we move backwards. If we keep cycling with the left and right mouse button, we are going to cycle through the same 2 cameras, and then we can, well, move to any direction that we want, okay, like this. And now, just to add a very small effect, let's change this last camera. Let's make this camera to look at our player, okay, just so it's going to give a different sense of what's happening here. So we're going to make a new script in the project window, so right click, select create, then C# script. This is going to be named chase camera. Okay, we can hit enter and wait for this to compile. And in main camera 3, we're going to drag this chase camera script and drop in main camera 3. Okay, now we open chase camera, and we need to set the target for the chase camera. So we can type here public transform target. And in the update method, we're going to type transform.lookAt, and the parameter is going to be the target. So we pass target as a parameter. Okay. So we save this, go to Unity, let's wait for this compilation to complete, and in the chase camera, there's going to be this target position, and we just drag and drop the player in here. Okay, so we access the player transform component, and the third camera is going to look at it. Okay, so we have the first one, the second, the third, and the fourth. Okay, and if we move our player, the camera is going to basically follow our player. Okay, so that's it for this video. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. We tried to make this a bit more fun by using the input on real life scenarios. Okay, you're going to use this a lot. You can make this system for cycling between cameras, and you can make a player that can basically walk around, move, and look at any direction. And it's going to be very useful if you're making other games like virtual reality ones, and well, pretty much any game that receives any sort of input. Okay. My name is Glauco Pires, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.